All right, welcome to Two Fat Nerds. I am Bob at the soundboard. I am here with Tiny
Yo.
and Dubs. Are you kidding me?
What?
You opening up a pop right now as we're introducing our.
I'm thirsty.
Just move on.
Whatever.
We can ignore him.
Anyway, welcome to our very first episode, Two Fat Nerds. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. These two fuckknuckles are just two fat nerds, and I'm just along for the ride. For our very beginning topic, we're gonna delve a little bit into some D&D. For those of you who are not full-on nerds, that's Dungeons and Dragons, and we're gonna talk about like what makes, in our opinion, like a good DM. What makes a good dungeon master? Tiny, I'll let you take off on this.
So, I guess the biggest thing I can think of right off the bat is a willingness to say no to a player. You have to say no, right? Can we all agree that eventually you have to set boundaries with your players?
That is a fucking fact.
I do that on a routine basis.
We know you do. Especially, I understand, like, because, like, I know the very first game that I had Dubs introduced, I kind of let you guys do whatever. But I also had a kill switch on almost everything you would do at some point.
Well, a lot of us. It also helped that a lot of us were new enough. We didn't understand the rules well enough to do anything super dumb.
Oh yeah, I mean there is that too. But I think the biggest thing, and it's just me noticing it. Maybe it's just selective seeing on some of the Facebook groups that I'm part of. It seems like players are just letting stuff get broken because they're like, "Oh, I saw on TikTok I could do this and this and this, and this cleric is forever broken." I'm like, "Yeah, but it only takes a DM saying no once to make that
Not broken.
not broken." And to me, that's something that's important because you're the god of this. And if you let your players be demigods the whole time, there's no fun for every player who can't achieve that.
That's the thing that frustrates me about a lot of DMs is the power players have are limited by the amount of experience and wealth they are given. Any challenger, any NPC, any monster that the DM puts in front of those players is not limited by these restrictions. And I feel like DMs would benefit greatly by remembering that fact.
Right, 100%.
Especially if you're it's like I like to throw in like liches, vampires, other immortal characters that have been kicking around for probably millennia in their own lore. Fucking play them that way.
It's funny when you say that the universe is governed by rules from a player perspective. It just makes me think of the Matrix. Players are governed by rules, and that, I mean, you could basically say like people like Morpheus, Trinity, they're the players. They are governed by rules, but so are the agents. You, the DM, are Neo. You are not governed by a goddamn thing.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're 100% right. You're the DM, and everyone needs to remember Rule 0. All the rules can be broken because you said so.
Yes.
I mean, and this is without even like inventing stuff or homebrewing anything, because the DM at any time has access to anything in any book ever written.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
Feel free to use that.
I mean,
But I guess at the same time, when you say that, also make sure that your players have the ability to use it also, because that's, in my opinion, that's not.
Well, yeah, because like the only reason the players wouldn't have access to it, I mean, aside from the banhammer, which is neither here nor there, the only thing limiting a player's access to it is wealth and time.
Fact.
yeah, basically.
Wealth, time, and experience. That's it. Those are the limiting factors.
100%.
The DM does not have these factors,
Right.
which is why DM can have dickhead characters like Jin that have been manipulating the world in the background for the last couple thousand years.
I feel like you might be hitting a little close to home in one of our games there, guy.
He
Yeah.
definitely is, and I know about it. I just haven't told the rest of the party. Sorry, guys.
Wow. All right. I mean, whatever. Moving on. But going back to what Tiny was saying about just being willing to say no to players, that just makes me think like a useful thing that every DM I think should do is you don't necessarily have to go through the entire list, but go through Mr. Welch's list of things he cannot do.
Oh yeah, that is definitely worth a little bit of a read in my opinion, because it shows you how creative an experienced player can be at a very high rate at that too. Because I guarantee you some of this stuff has probably happened over many years and probably over several games, if not very quickly, because creative players tend to come up with really creative solutions. I would like to point out the peasant cannon.
The peasant railgun.
I stand by that not working.
Yeah, that was
I
an
also
instant no, because physics doesn't work that way.
Well, even move actions don't work that way.
Fact, that's also that. But if you have a DM who thinks it's funny, haha, but I don't like setting that precedent for any game.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and agree. It's one of those things where it's like in my Game of Thrones game. It's I don't care how far Chris's archer can actually fire an arrow by raw. I am setting a limit to it.
Well, and I also have to agree with that, because I mean, don't get me wrong, he's taken all the feats or whatever it's skills or whatever it's called in that game to be able to fire 300 and some yards or some stupid astronomical.
Dude, by raw he can fire over a kilometer.
Is it over? Okay, see, I don't care because I don't play that character, but even I'm
Well, also no.
Yeah, also no. I can see that because now Chris literally is. I'm my character. He's like, Chris, I'm going to roll to attack this guy.
See, I would make that limiting factor his ability to see that target.
Well, I mean, it sort of is, but ultimately it's just no. I'm sorry. There is no arrow there is no bow in existence that'll fire an arrow a kilometer.
Perception checks will fucking be the final nail in that coffin. Because, speaking as an archer, even taking a bow shot at 80 yards is difficult as hell.
And by the way, crowd, that is not a challenge to find me a bow that can fire an arrow over a kilometer. I will turn it down.
Well, see, here's the thing. You could, if you could, it would be in today's times, not in the world in which Game of Thrones is set.
That's fair.
Don't get me wrong. You could start talking about stuff like that now. I don't say it's true. I don't follow anything that close in materials and all that stuff. Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. I don't care. But you can't sit there and tell me, well, this composite longbow exists now. That composite longbow does not exist in the goddamn Game of Thrones universe.
No.
The most what in material wise, what's that one steel? I can't think of the name.
Valyrian steel.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the strongest thing.
Yeah, but there's no precedent anywhere in the Game of Thrones films, lore, books, whatever that says anywhere where they've ever made a bow out of it.
Well, yeah,
or that even that or even if such technique exists or is possible.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and I would lean toward it not even being possible, because it says that you can't even take the edge off of Valyrian steel, let alone bend it.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
They can't even the best they can do is melt down and re-smelt Valyrian steel, changing its composition enough to make it flexible.
And there's only a select group of people that can even smelt it and actually work it. Yeah. Okay, let's find
and that number dwindles with every generation.
Yeah, so let's take that and let's just go look. Oh, I bet there's some guy out that lives with the Dothraki that can do it. No, there's not. Sorry.
Now, speaking as a Lord of the Rings nerd, and Bob, you're not gonna like this.
Go ahead. I'm already angry.
I kind of have a feeling I know where he's going with this one,
so
so don't feel
bad. Apparently, and this is a lot of reading between the lines when you're looking at the fall of Numenor. Apparently, some of the Numenorian bows were made out of hollow steel.
Yep. All right.
Bob's that's fascinating. That's bullshit, but that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's 100% bullshit. But go ahead. Go on.
Well, no offense, and it's also coming down to we're talking about a whole different world.
Oh yeah, with fantasy material.
Well, yeah, in the realm of high fantasy, anything is possible.
I mean, they created rings that could make you invisible and stuff like that, and to take your soul.
Speaking of poorly explained magical abilities.
Well, it doesn't seem like it. Well, I mean, Tolkien eventually explains in rather lengthy detail in his letters.
Yeah, what the rings actually do.
Yeah, what the rings actually do. It would have been nice to have that actually written in the books, though.
Well,
you mean that they're basically focusing rods for manipulating the natural world?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been nice at some point to hear that.
Yeah,
one.
he hints at that when he's talking to Galadriel. But that's, I mean, when I say hints at that, I mean...
You mean like maybe possibly could be down the line driving down the street
yeah,
with your left turn signal on while turning right kind of
there's
thing.
no small amount of headcanon that goes into that at that point.
But I will say this, though. That's like the one thing, talking about high fantasy, about Tolkien. I like how he did his world building. And as a DM, I really like it because he left stuff out there to find later. It just sucks he died before he really got everything out, and everything just didn't happen the way it did, which is just shitty how shit like that works. But it's just cool to think that maybe, like, down the line, if you ever DM'd your own, like, the DMing in that sense, that it's like, okay, the world ended, but what's left? Kind of like what I'm doing with some of my games right now, and you guys are playing in different aspects of the original game that started the group.
Yeah. I mean, I do, going back on it, on his, piggybacking on Tolkien's world building abilities, like, I do love the fact that there's basically lore behind every single blade of grass in that entire world.
And I'll say this to new and upcoming DMs: you don't have to do this.
No, you absolutely do not. You don't have to build a world at all, for that matter.
I mean, and unless it's entertaining for you at that point, I would recommend not even trying. I mean, unless it's something you enjoy doing and you have an idea already and you just think it'd be fun to take a crack at, go for it at that point. If you're having fun, go for it. But don't feel like you have to.
No, otherwise there's plenty of universes within just the D&D handbooks that get, with plenty of lore behind them that you can use.
I will have to say, talking about world building, I want to piggyback a little bit off of this because I have to give Dubs credit for something. Your ability to take stuff and put it in like D&D world is actually fantastic. Real world stuff into D&D world.
Oh, my translation thing.
Yeah, like taking how we did the Crusades and Sandstorm.
Oh, and just basically, stapling D&D to it.
Yeah. And then what you're doing with packs.
Yeah.
Have to really thoroughly enjoy your ability to do that.
Well, thank you.
It makes the game a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd say you're doing it quite masterfully.
It's the technique of building a box.
Yeah, you can't think outside the box, but you can think.
I can help change the boundaries of the box.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd say that what you do is far more difficult than what I do in my Game of Thrones game.
Yeah,
basically, all I'm doing is managing chess pieces.
Yeah, but what you did, what I like about your Game of Thrones game is you changed like 3 things, and it just kind of made the world easier for you to deal with.
Well, yeah, but God, let me tell you, man, just working out the butterfly effect from those few things that I changed, it was an absolute nightmare.
I have no doubt.
Hey, Bob, I'd also like to point out something with talking about managing chess pieces. Everything you guys do in Mafia, I literally have to sit and think what's going on with the rest of the families.
I don't want to think about that. I really don't want to think about that.
I don't even want to think about that in game.
No, I don't want to ever.
I told Dubs the first time we ever did a Mafia D20 game, which, by the way, side note, if you guys get to actually look into it, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I might
It's the Complete Mafia.
Yeah, the Complete Mafia. It's a really fun little source book for D20 if you want to do like an organized crime game.
Now, the original text is getting harder and harder to find. The easy one to find is the LA version, which is the most recent book where he kind of, the author has kind of updated it and tweaked it.
But
it's focusing more on your modern gangs versus the older book, which kind of it's a straight up, it's a
1950s gangster.
It's a genesis. It's a big genesis onward of Mafia history, and you can just basically dump yourself wherever's more convenient.
Yeah, but you guys do something, and it could be minor, and I have to roll for it because I have a roll sheet that I've had since the original Mafia game on how to make the butterfly effect go. And then you guys do something major, and it's like, okay, I've had to create a whole new sheet because now there's 5 other families to deal with instead of just the couple gangs that were in the original one I had to micromanage.
Well,
in the original one,
I gotta say, you're giving me ideas for how I could further improve my management of chess pieces, and even better yet, involvement of chess pieces in my Game of Thrones game.
I would. All this comes down to is because of how I think when it comes to world building. when my players do something, especially if I'm going to be continuing the lore of a game or a universe I'm creating, I have to think, so if this is happening over here, what's going on maybe possibly in another part of the country or continent or whatever you want to call it down the line? Kind of like what I'm doing, like what I did with the original city and how I jumped so far forward, because it's like, all the stuff I writ down is gone now. Like, it's just gone because that game started 10 damn years ago thinking about that now.
Oh, yeah. Like, because that was back when we were still analoging everything. Like, when I finally converted my original character to, you saw Lauren's character sheet it was toilet paper.
Yeah, it was.
It looked like toilet paper.
Well, I want everyone to understand this, why he says that, because when we first created this group, we played 2 times a week, Friday, Saturday. We would start at 7 p.m., and Fridays were usually the early night because I had work all week.
Yeah, we would just come over as soon as we got off work or got out of school.
Yeah.
Depending on what everybody was doing.
But usually we were done at 1, 2 in the morning. Now, Saturdays, on the other hand, I think it was easy for us to do 10, 12 hours.
Oh, yeah. That was nothing for us.
And we did that for a year and a half.
Caffeinated, sugar-fueled, just absolute madness.
I'm just disappointed that I caught the absolute tail end of that.
I'm actually disappointed in that too, but I'm so happy you got to be part of the original.
Can you imagine if we'd had him instead of Wyatt?
Yeah. I would have been probably great. Well, because Bob wouldn't have thrown a big bitchy pissy fit about stuff going on in the game.
Right.
Yeah, for the record, I've known these 2 twats for going on 7 years now, and I'm still the new guy.
I think you've kind of graduated past it because
you haven't.
I'm
the new guy. Yeah, there is nobody.
You are the least senior person.
Yeah. I mean, that's nuts. 7 years, and I'm still the new guy.
I'm still the noob.
How?
In terms of D&D experience, he is still considered in the bottom threshold.
Everybody else has been playing longer than me.
How long have you been playing?
The 10 years we've been a group?
I started. I didn't.
Okay, so yeah, we've been playing for about just as long as each other.
I didn't start playing until 2011.
Okay, yeah, we've been playing about just as long.
Like, to the point where didn't know what D&D was until 2011.
Okay. All right, you are the noob. I've got you beat there.
Literally, so
I knew what it was. I just didn't want anything to do with it.
It's
for
funny
the
to think
time.
about because literally, 2 months before the group started, me and Dubs were hanging out, and then one of our old friends, Lance, and they wanted to play D&D, and apparently Dubs was like, "What's D&D?" And I
had heard the words D&D before. That was the extent of my experience.
And then Lance proceeded. And then Lance proceeded. Then Lance proceeded to throw a player's handbook at him and
literally
said, "Go."
Wung a PHP at me.
And then said, "Go." And then Dubs literally, because in autistic
I read it cover to cover.
In autistic research monkey fashion, he read it cover to cover.
And then I read the DMG cover to cover.
I shouldn't be surprised.
I'm gonna tell you this though. The first time he presented me an actual character sheet, we only had to fix 2 things, and that's just because he didn't understand.
I didn't understand how experience worked.
That's understandable.
Or ability, or the ability point leveling.
Oh, you weren't just building a level 1?
It was like a level 2 or 3.
Well, see, because I also started doing my map thing. I mapped Lauren out to level 12 at that point.
Okay.
Because he wanted to. So this is. I'm going to just tell this story because I still love how this story worked. So Lance created the group. And I didn't really want to DM because I like playing more than DMing. And also, the previous groups, I usually just DM'd all the time. And don't get me wrong, I like playing. I like playing every now and then because it gets that monotonous mindset out for a while. Well, we started playing. We had 2 weeks in. I think we were on our 2nd or 3rd week. We were level 2 or 3. And Lance decides he doesn't want to DM no more. He'd rather play WoW. So I just picked up the game. And within a week, within literally the 1 week of me DMing, a poll went up on our Facebook group. Do you want Lance to continue DMing or Tiny? And he got 0 votes.
Like, if you look back to the actual history of the members list of our Facebook group, you'll see like the OG members of us were added by Lance, and you don't see any motherfucker named Lance in there.
Well, he's been banned from the group twice.
I staged a coup.
Damn.
But and then
okay, so that counts at least 2 coups in Facebook groups that you have caused.
The second one wasn't my fault. The second one just happened.
and we will talk about the second one at another time because that's a whole other story in itself. But then ever since then, Dubs actually got a hold of me because I was still in school, so I still had a lot of free time, i.e. I didn't go to school on Fridays. And Dubs just decided that some of his classes looked like my basement sometimes. So
Labs are for peasants.
that's a fact. So he showed up one day and he brought Player's Handbook with, and he's like, Tiny, I want help. I have my character almost built because he wanted to rebuild his paladin because Lance limited us in a bunch of stupid ways, and I let everyone have a chance to rebuild their characters because, you know, I'm not a bitch when it comes to letting players start off decently. And he worked through it, and I said, well, work through your character sheet and I'll look it over. And it was fine, besides experience and like a couple other things that were just minor nitpicks because how I do stuff as compared to how Lance did stuff. He had a character built, and I was like, holy shit, I don't have to hold your hand all the way through.
I can read.
Yeah, we know. We know you can read.
It's an amazing skill. Yeah, but none of the other newbies would do it.
Yeah, that's the most annoying thing I see on Facebook groups. I don't know how to do this. Literally, hands page. Well, what's it say?
John supposedly has a decade of experience on me and still won't read.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The DM group, like, I know we've talked about this outside of this broadcast for like to the point of ad nauseum, but for the sake of the audience, I think it's worth rehashing. Like all the idiots in these DMs groups.
I just cannot fathom the amount of raging stupidity in these groups, ranging from DMs, because like we're talking about, like DMs willing to say no. My players are homebrewing this stuff. What do I do? Say no.
You're the DM. You have, like, if anyone is going to have the ability to say no, it is you. Grow a pair and say no to your players.
But then also people just like, how do I do this, this, and this? Okay, I don't mind helping you do that because me and Dubs used to be forum searchers. And we used to dig a lot of forums like
back in the olden days of the WotC forums.
Right.
I wish they'd archive those.
Press
please.
F in the chat for those, please. F in the chat. But it's like, it like some of this stuff's really basic, and they're just like, "What do I do? What do I do?" I'm like, it's literally, like,
yeah. What does the rule book say?
It's always our first question. Well, what does the book say?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, like,
yeah, like people are asking for like basic questions
about
that
like mechanic for abilities checks and fucking skill checks.
Yeah, it's like, how does AC work? Well, what does the book say? Like, I don't think anybody's ever asked like how do you calculate?
It's always
AC,
skill
but
checks.
It's always it's like a skill check or this or that or some other just really simple thing like that, or how do saving throws work? That kind of stuff. Like, come on, man, what? Have you even cracked open a player's handbook?
See, part of us, being hamstrung because the groups were in our 5th ed books and we played predominantly 3.5 and have not, at least as far as I'm aware, have not even cracked 5th ed books beyond cursory glances.
I don't know. I've taken a fair look at the player's handbook, the DMG, and the monster manual when they were first released, but I know they've gone through revisions, so
right. I'm just sitting here wondering, because I'm not assuming that everybody, initially I wasn't assuming that everybody in the forum was an idiot. I'm like, does 5th Ed just not have skills anymore? Like, what is
No, it does. It just has lazy players and lazy DMs that aren't willing to actually do the research.
I mean, if you decide ultimately that you want to run the rules a different way, sure.
Whatever. You're the DM. That's your prerogative.
Yeah, but before going and reinventing the wheel...
Yeah, no shit. Like,
maybe see what the framers had to say first, and then go from there if you don't like it.
Yeah, that's the most. I just drives me up a damn wall on that one. But since we're also talking about the forums, can we talk about people wanting to homebrew stuff all the damn time?
And
and don't get me wrong,
I don't have anything inherently against homebrew.
No, what I have against is someone to make a 3rd level spell that can kill someone. with
What's
no
wrong
saving
with-
throw. With no saving throw, no nothing. It's like cast spell insta-dead with a level 3 spell.
Well, it depends on what you're casting it against.
Oh, you mean like that guy who wanted to basically make a spell that ripped their brain out, rip their heart out, and let them
Yeah, at level 3.
Oh, a level 3 spell that could do that much?
Yeah.
rip someone's heart out and let you control their body as long
No
as you help
saves.
the heart.
Okay, that's a bit OP. Just a bit.
Just a bit at level 3? Dude, at least in 3.5, most players at level 3
3
speed,
is fireball.
Yeah, fireball.
Yeah, I know, and that's I don't know. That's
which is a wrecking ball of a spell.
But that's an OG spell that's always been a wrecking ball. So,
But I don't remember Kali Ma being on the 3rd level spell list for any caster. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you on that one.
That seems like 7 to 9 level spells for me. Like, because I remember something. Because like immediately when I saw that, I'm thinking Decerebrate, which is.
I'm just praying that like we have an audience that is old enough to understand what the hell you just referred to. If you don't, too bad.
We'll just weed out the kids with terrible parents. It'll be okay.
I'll take what is movie autism for 500, Alex.
That's your hint.
But I mean, you're not
because like there's a psionic power that does something similar, which just rips out your brainstem and then turns you to dust. I think.
Yeah, it's
But I'm pretty sure that's a level 7 or 8 power.
It's a level 7, I believe. But yeah, that's way the hell up.
And
on,
even that has a save.
yeah, there is no insto. Ooh, I'm thinking it. Ooh, your brainstem's in my hand. Like there.
And it's a move action. No, wait, no, that's a standard action. You have to spend more points on it to make it a move.
Either way, like I have nothing inherently wrong or bad against homebrews. I'm just.
I feel
However,
like
there's, in my opinion, there does like I'm not inherently against homebrewing stuff. However, it does seem that when players and DMs, for that matter, do homebrew stuff, they do it very biased in favor of themselves, and so it ends up being OP for whichever party created the homebrew material.
right, or at the very least, just generally unbalanced.
Yes.
Which is frustrating for me because in 5th Ed, like someone did the math, there's like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 20,000 different character combinations between the classes.
Yeah, it's something
Yeah,
like that.
it's something outrageous
it's
that.
It's something dumb. And 3.5 has even more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
But that's what you get with all the source material and that many options.
right, it's just
Between prestige
it just
classes
boggles
and-
the mind that these people that can't be bothered to crack open a book have also arbitrarily decided that there's nothing in those combinations that can satisfy them as a player. They have to make something up.
yeah. It kind of just. Ooh, what the hell?
And then, of course, these same people that are willing to homebrew spells and classes look at us like we're just, constantly growing dildos out of our forehead when we homebrew a world.
Yeah, I don't understand that one. I mean, like I said,
that's way easier.
Like I said, I understand that like world building's not for everyone, and it's not. I can sit here and tell you I've been playing D&D since I was like 10, 12, somewhere in there. I'm 30 now.
Like, I know it sure as hell isn't for me. I have to take worlds that already exist and make them in my own.
And there's nothing wrong with there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I'm doing that in all my modern games. All my modern games are set in real world places, but I'm letting the players dictate the timeline, essentially, because you guys are breaking the timeline.
Now, I've gotten away from it in my last few games because I've been doing a lot of... My 3.5 games have been mirroring real world history, but I do actually have a 3.5 realm that all my other 3.5 games take place in. And that was literally just geography. You want to know how the politics, the race interactions, and all that other shit works in my book, works in my world? Well, I'll tell you. It's simple. Mm-hmm. According to the races guides...
If you crack open the guide to insert race here, we can see how the world works.
It's that. It's exactly that.
Easy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Everybody hates orcs. Everybody hates kobolds. Dwarves and elves do not like each other.
Like,
Humans, well, everybody either hates or loves humans.
Yeah, that's weird. But anyway, so it's not like my worlds where I have civil wars going on in random places. There's a town that's ran by a dwarven hierarchy inside of a goblin controlled territory. There's not a mega city that no longer exists with an adamantium made.
Your world's like from the get-go. I mean, you've been at this long enough. You no longer give a fuck if your world, goes against standard socio-political boundaries.
Well, yeah.
From standard D&D, because you don't care anymore. You know those. You can do those whenever you want.
And don't get me wrong, I still pay tribute to those aspects because, like,
well, depending on what your character, it seems like you've decided whether you're going to go with it or not, depending on if your PC characters go with it or not.
Yeah, fact. Also, okay, so piggybacking off PC, can we talk about how I don't understand why people will not let player characters be gods, or like be
heroes?
Be heroes, not gods, heroes, because that drives me insane.
Yeah, I saw that in one of the forum.
Because like for me, because for me, like rolling stats for characters, hearing people complain, well, my characters have 16s on all their scores. So what?
What's the big deal?
They're PCs. Well, they throw fits about it.
Yeah, I know they throw fits. I am asking these DMs that are complaining, what's the big deal?
I just don't understand the idea of someone playing a game and you're being better than the commoner.
They are heroes.
They're supposed to be better.
Like, has anyone else played?
The genre is called fantasy. It's meant to be unrealistic. You myopic man.
Like, has anyone not played like Oblivion, Skyrim,
right?
Like any of the insert Elder Scrolls, insert Fallout.
Well, it's like these save DMs, like especially in 5th Ed, where your ability scores are capped. These poor 5th Ed DMs couldn't handle 3.5 games.
They couldn't handle
as much as they bitch about their own genre.
About their own edition. Their ability scores are at 20. What do I do? We start there.
Yeah, because so just FYI, if you know anything about D&D, hopefully you do, as you've made it this far into the podcast at this point.
Well, you're watching my show, so I assume you do.
Right? So you roll your stats. So strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. That's based on your character. You roll stats. Most people do the standard 4d6, drop the lowest.
Add them together.
Add them together. Ta-da.
Do it 6 times. Those are your stats. You can arrange them in any order you want.
Yeah. We, on the other hand, because of... And I stand by my reasoning. I've played long enough. I'm tired of watching people build cool characters to get cucked by a random goblin with a spear.
Yeah, you're a heretic because you insist on your heroes being heroes.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens with enough experience, how you can make a level 1 character almost die from an orc. No matter what.
Hello.
Okay, they have 20 strength. Cool, my orc has 20 strength too. Like
the base orc, I think, has like 20 to 24, depending.
Yeah, like, it's ridiculous. All it do is it's called compensating for CR.
Use more than one orc.
Yeah, or a party. Like, oh my god, you got to think. But, so when we do our stats, everyone gets a free 20. You roll a d20.
Commence reading.
Yeah, haha. So you get a free 20. You roll a d20, and you re-roll anything under
lower than a 12.
Than a 12.
So yes, that for those of you who are kind of like slow at putting this together, the lowest stat you can have is a 12.
Because also, for fun fact, what we do if you get like a 6 or like a 15, a 17 or something like that, we do high-low. We roll a percentile. You say high-low as you roll it. So say I had a 15, Dubs is like the DM, and he goes, okay, high-low. I say high, he rolls like an 80. I get to move that stat from a 15 to a 16. Now, if I say a low...
You guess right, it goes up a point. You guess wrong, go down a point.
There you go.
Jesus.
Sorry. Eat shit.
Sorry, I didn't pack a lunch big enough to close you to get through that.
You don't gotta be an asshole about it.
Sorry, I'm around people where I have to explain contract language every day, so you have to walk through every step, otherwise they think you're trying to fuck them. Sorry.
And man has a point, you know.
I help agents sell annuities on a daily basis.
Yeah,
I have some familiarity with contract law.
some. I negotiated a union contract.
You know, I'm somewhat of a fucktard myself.
But anyway, so we've had players, and I've watched them roll their stats. So you can't sit there and say, well, he did it by himself in a dark room. No. I watched Dubs roll a dwarf that had 320s.
With 320s. The one dwarf with 420s.
He had 320s and like
and
19.
18 and a 12.
Yeah. And like it was like 320s and 19 and 18 and 12. And then guess what? He rolled his 19 and it went to a 20. And you want to know what's funny? He got rolled his 3 first encounters.
Yep.
And it wasn't because of bad die rolls. No, he actually put up a fight. Problem is, my die rolls were just a little bit better. And no matter what you have in con, if they still hit you with a crit, it's still gonna hurt.
Spells.
So,
Fact.
facts of the universe.
Like, saving out of an orb of acid is fine. But when you're taking half damage from 8 orbs...
It doesn't matter after a while.
Because the big bad evil guy's taking exception to your existence.
It kind of stops mattering at that point.
You hit him once and took like a fifth of his health. He was upset.
You have done the messed up, sir.
Dubs, I'm gonna slam him.
Smack. I'm sorry.
Dubs walks out with big dick axe energy. I'm gonna hit him. Hits him. Okay, sir, we're gonna have.
Oh yeah, that was after I discovered the war pike.
Yeah.
What's better than an axe? A 10-foot long axe.
Orc loses half of itself. You know what? That makes me mad.
Me confused because orc isn't dead. I just
Confused Unga Bunga.
Confused Uncle Bunga.
I just hit you with like 3d10, dude. This is the part where you drop.
Where was the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
You know what's funny? I can't remember what game I said that in, but I said it because it was just perfect, and I killed the rube. That was one of my best. That was one of my.
Still not as tragic as pick one of my orc's existences.
Yeah, that's another press F in the chat right there. Damn.
Okay. Well, what was your orc's name?
Which one?
The first one.
It was with Walk.
Yeah.
Kalis.
Yeah,
Kalis
Kalis
and
and Walk, the dynamic orc retard duo.
What killed Kalis?
An elf.
Oh yeah. I thought that was the one that killed Ugluk.
Might have been 2 elves. your orcs have an affinity for pissing off elves.
I think we got killed by the same elf.
You did.
We did.
Because you guys fought, because it was like one of the last battles of that game, and you guys went and fought an elf army, and the elf that went into the prestige class of
Order of the Bow, maybe?
no, it was with the blade.
Oh, the champion of Coralon?
Yeah, champion of Coralon.
Yep. Knowledges are important, kids. Like, that's what
Well, barbarians generally don't have them.
Yeah, that's like I said. Knowledges are important. Barbarians don't have them. You should find people that have them.
Yeah, and I took that personally.
A simple knowledge local check would have saved my ass there.
I also have to admit that game probably started out the funniest ever with you straight.
When I killed John.
Yeah, you killed John's character and ate his mule.
He burned down my bar. I took that personally.
Also, you want to make also for fun when you make an NPC that you just don't want the characters to kill, just do it. Eventually, they're going to learn. Kalis learned. He's like, I need you to make me orc shot puts. K. Kalis proceeds to not want to pay because dirty big elf grabs one of Kalis's things and by the way, these shot puts are like 30-pound balls.
Yeah, something like that.
They're 30-pound steel balls.
They're 10-pound iron balls.
Yeah, 10-pound iron balls. And he squeezed it and made a handprint. And Kalis went, You know what? You're not worth messing with today, and walked away.
Yusa is not worth my time.
You make the Lord very nervous.
So, I mean, that's where we're at, guys. Like, I think, I don't know. What are you guys thinking else yet? DM stuff. I feel like we covered like a pretty large.
Yeah, I mean, we covered, how to handle players. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be like, for God's sake, read the damn books.
I mean, also we're not also telling, because I know we kind of harped on people just jumping into forums and stuff like that. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you have to. Me and Dubs have spent a lot of time on WotC forums asking like a lot of questions because
Yeah, but generally that was because we couldn't make sense of a rule, not because we hadn't tried looking at it.
Yeah, first things first, look it up, or at least attempt to look it up. It might be in a different book, it might be in a different book that you simply don't have access to, but there are people out there on the internet that do have access to that information. Don't be afraid to seek out that information. But
also don't be afraid of the books either.
Yeah, don't be afraid to look inside of the books that you do have.
Yeah, like just got to try it at some point. Also, I will say this because for one of our upcoming games, me and Dubs had to hand build a race.
Don't do it.
Yeah, for those who haven't played 3.5 or still
and then mess with the Savage Species rules. If you like doing that sort of thing, go for it. I will never do it again.
We only built a 2.
It was
only 2. It was only
like ECL 2 race.
Yeah, and it took us 4.5 hours.
To figure it out.
Because the hard part was...
And that was with the Savage Species walkthrough of how to do it.
Yeah. So me and Dubs have said, never again. Ever again.
Like, the other reason I powered through it is because the race idea was too cool.
Yeah,
the concept was too cool.
The character concept was just way too cool to not do it. Like, it was just fantastic. And me and Dubs powered through it. It was a pain in the ass, but it was worth it. And don't get me wrong, me and Dubs now forever have the knowledge on how to do that. I'm never doing it again.
That's not I'm going to walk away.
I swear to God, the next guy that asks me to, I'm going to just throw the book at him. Like, Savage Species, figure it out. But I don't know how to do it. That sucks, dude. I'm not doing it. Sorry.
Did Savage Species do it already? No. That sucks.
I don't care.
Which just kind of goes into, like, the whole homebrew subject of there are actual ways by raw, depending on which edition you're playing. I don't know about 5th edition, but certainly in 3.5, there are rules specifically made for how to create a race.
And keeping it balanced.
Yes.
Which is the key. Homebrewing isn't hard. Balancing is hard.
Yes.
Fact. I will also say one thing about who's the people that run Pathfinder? Paizo. I love their ability just to stamp their signature of approval on like third-party source books.
Their third-party content is so awesome. Like I love all the workshops they partner with to get their content made.
Because I will say this, like, don't get me wrong, I've been a hardcore 3.5 player forever. But the moment we started messing around with Pathfinder, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's massively overwhelming. Like,
it's just since we're part of it is because we're pretty much exclusively using the SRD versus learning the text first and then going to an SRD. It's just basically having to relearn how feat trees work is the only reason I haven't gotten full bore into it.
Well, yeah, because there's so many.
Everything's different now.
Well, it's not only that, but there's so many.
And there's so much more.
Yeah, there's so much. Like, you can go. It's like cleave. Cleave used to be power attack, cleave, great cleave. And you were done with the cleave tree.
And even then, you're probably not taking more than the first 2 steps anyway.
Yeah. But now it's like power attack, cleave. Oh, now there's
That's just the start of the tree.
Yeah, now there's special cleaves you can do. There's even more special cleaves if you're a dwarf, if you're a cat folk. There's these weird acrobatic cleaves that let you cleave, make like an acrobatics check to jump over someone to cleave someone 10 feet away. It's like, what is going on?
And then there's all the new combat trees, like Devastating Strike, all the different critical trees.
I love all the critical trees. It actually makes having a ranged weapon worth it.
Like, I haven't even read through all the combat feats, which is also one of the reasons I haven't and probably will not for quite a while tackle a caster in Pathfinder. Because that's another...
I don't even want to ever think about doing that.
Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the combat and the general feat trees.
I know building my spy has been rowdy because just trying to figure out what feats to take to make it worth my while. It's also really rough because my character's not combat oriented.
So you're having to plow through all the general feats.
Yeah. I have a very lack of combat needed feats. Also, my feats that I need got taken care of in like the first 5 levels of character.
Well, yeah, because you needed one tree.
Yeah, the feint tree. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna feint him. Why? Because I have these really cool abilities called sneak attack. Also in the idea of my character, I'm what I call him a captain killer. Basically, we do a lot of mass combat. So I find the general.
Hardcore glass cannon in combat.
Find the general. Kill the general.
The cannoniest glass cannon in
I am
combat.
I am the most cannon. Yeah, you're right. And then because you got Bob, whose character's all about just providing mass combat.
Yeah. I don't
straight leadership without the feats.
Yeah, basically. Well, I took one. All I did was take one level in expert, and that's all I needed.
Well, yeah, your character in combat is designed to anchor the line and just be an impenetrable bulwark for everybody else to springboard off of.
Yeah.
Chris, the infantry killer.
You're not designed to kill everything. You're designed to not go down.
Basically, yeah.
Tower shields. The secret is tower shields.
All of them. Every single one.
Like, don't ask me what a Roman soldier is doing with in full plate armor, but there he is in full plate armor.
Creative. God, what the hell?
Creative license.
Creative license. Thank you. That's exactly what that is. But other than that, for DMs, I give you guys I can only say that it comes with experience.
Don't be afraid to master your world.
Yeah.
And use all the tools at your disposal.
And also, never throw your worlds away. It's amazing what you can find. Like, when I moved into my house, I found notes from worlds I created in high school. And you know what? I like some of the NPCs I created.
Yeah, don't be afraid to stand on your own shoulders.
Like, you might... don't get me wrong. If you're gonna sit down and massive create a world, I hope you use it for as long as you can, because there's some guys out there. Apparently, they got like a 30-year long game going on.
Yeah, I mean,
they switched they've just rotated players and stuff like that. They're doing one long story arc after one, and
I'm not keeping you idiots around that long.
You're never leaving.
One of us. One of us. One of us.
You're stuck. Get over it.
It's been a decade. I gotta do 30.
Yeah, man.
Let's be honest. You're probably not gonna make it 30, but
Fact.
Yeah, face it, man. You're in for 25 to life.
Hey, statistically speaking, in men's friendships, relationships, we've been knowing each other for more than 10 years. Statistically, we're now going to be lifelong friends.
Yeah, you're stuck with us.
It's not too late to ditch Bob.
Yeah, but you're not going to.
He's very right in that one.
After all the other luck we had.
I hate to say this, but because it's still funny as hell, because Bob and me work in the same place, and when people are like, "How do you know Bob?" Craigslist. That's the end of the conversation.
There's no way not to sound like a moron.
Yeah, there's no way not to sound like an absolute lunatic when you explain how we met.
How'd you guys meet? Craigslist. Looking for group. Craigslist.
Yeah. I was in the town that I used to live in before I moved to. Well, we're based out of Lincoln, Nebraska, but I lived in a different town. Then I moved to Lincoln. I was still going back to my old town to play with a group of friends, to play D&D with a group of friends. Well, eventually, after about a year of playing with them, things started dying down. And we started playing less and less. And so I saw the writing on the wall, and I realized that we weren't going to be playing probably anymore before long. So then I decided, well, I still like playing this game, and I want to continue playing. So I went on to the internet, and lo and behold, posted an ad on Craigslist saying that looking for D&D group. Of course, I had to include the qualifier that I am a sane human being, which of course means I'm a fucking raving lunatic. Because who else would be friends with these two idiots?
Yeah.
So of course, Tiny he responds to my posts claiming to be some dude named John Johnson.
Hey,
You actually used an alias?
Yes, he used an alias.
yeah, because at that point, I bought a lot of stuff off Craigslist, and I sure as hell didn't want people knowing my real name.
You already have an alias, you fruitcake.
You
Yeah.
infantile pillock.
Yeah, but I don't want people knowing that alias. Also, Yahoo makes you put in a last name.
All right, no, that's fair.
So,
But
most generic name ever, John Johnson and go.
yeah, I ended up meeting Tiny and Dubs at a late night diner, like at fucking like 2 a.m.
Well,
Because how sketchy is that?
The
Well,
most
and-
sensible of meeting times.
Well, and to be fair in this argument, I worked second shift and did not get off work until 11:30 at night. And we had all agreed that we wanted to meet sooner rather than later, and that was the soonest we could all meet. Was that
we
week?
actually wanted to play that weekend.
Yeah, we wanted to play.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah, I introduced myself. I told them my actual name, Bob, and I could just see the look on their face. Nice alias.
well, we didn't say that, but when we got the
But
friend,
that's what their face said.
my name's Bob. Okay.
Like, oh, we're using our fake names. It's not a quote. It's a reference at best.
Oh, he says made up names.
Yeah, he says made up names.
We'll explain that in another one. Don't worry
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
another episode.
But yeah, and it was just we ended up being at the diner for like almost 2 hours at that point.
Yeah, something like that.
Because we all ate and then we just sat there and BS'd until like 4 a.m.
Yeah,
Yeah, because at that point, that
Some
diner, if you
absurd
bought
late
something,
time.
they'll serve you coffee as long as you're alive.
Oh yeah. By the way, RIP 24-hour diner.
What?
They're no longer 24 hours.
Oh, when you said that, the way you said that, I thought they had closed. I'm like, that's
it's just not open 24 hours.
That's
a day
why. That's why I
anymore.
said.
While
that-
the COVID thing is going on, it's probably not.
Oh yeah,
don't
that's
think they're
that's
ever going
absolutely
back
the
I
reason
bet
why.
they will.
it's still sad. Anyway, moving on from that one before we get sidetracked, as we often do.
Don't say shit like that.
But yeah,
Sorry.
anyway, ended up talking for a good couple of hours. Had a good few laughs and exchanged contact information on Facebook and stuff, and then showed up that Saturday for a game session, and the rest was history.
Yep. He's been constant ever since, and a constant pain in our ass at that too. But anyway, so where are we at time wise there, Bob?
52 minutes.
Well, I think that's a good place to
Fucking call it.
call it. I think we covered a good lot. I think there's more we can always talk about at some point. I think we had a good discussion, and you guys always feel free to ask more questions, and we can always respond to them later. So,
With that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks for listening to our very first episode, and you have a wonderful rest of whatever the hell it is you're doing after this.